everyone, and welcome to this video, which is all about oil. Yes, the good old oil that all cars actually use. Now, as a part of my 40k special, so I'm going to take you back in time, I broke the record for the most laps at the Nurburgring completed in 24 hours. Yeah, there was hardly any breaks in there. It was like 2-minute break to go to the toilet and back, and that was it. It was 241 laps, if you really want to know, and you can check out that full live stream. I'll link it at the end of the video. However, that did present us with a very good opportunity because we can have a car which has got very bad oil and a car which has good oil, and we can actually see what the difference is. What actually happens with the oil in Gran Turismo. Now, this was suggested by GTP Dutchy, and I appreciate that, Dutchy. Dutchy messaged me afterwards and said, you could try this. I was like, that's a good idea. Now, that was, of course, a year or so ago. It might be a year and a half ago right now. So, the questions that I have, and you potentially have as well, do you actually need to change the oil in Gran Turismo? You know, does it have an impact on the car in any way, shape, or form, or is it just a visual effect? What impact does it have then? So, if we do have to change it, what's the impact? You know, is power affected? Is braking affected? Is fuel usage affected? I don't know the answer to that. We're going to be finding out. And will a BOP setting ensure that oil doesn't impact the performance of the car in any stretch of the imagination? That's an interesting one because you might know that, and I get asked this a lot, why do I only use rental cars? The oil. I worry about the oil. I don't have to worry if it has an impact. So, does it have an impact or not? We're about to find out in this video. And then maybe you might see me use more of delivered cars in the future because I don't have to worry about oil. Who knows? Anyway, that's what this video is all about. Now, we've got some tests. I've written them down here if you're wondering what I'm looking at. I've got some tests that I'm going to run, and they're actually going to be timestamped below in the video as well. As always, if you do enjoy this video, get a like, subscribe to the channel, stay in touch with all the latest content. But without further ado, let's jump into some of those tests. So, first of all then, we're going to be looking at PP. And you can see here we're on the bad oil car there. Highlighted that just to show you. So you can see all the statistics here. You see the setup of the car as well from when we used it. But critically, the performance points, 1058.44. You can see that right there. What we're going to do, keep an eye on that car, is change to the good oil car, sorry. And you can see that straight away, we don't have a change in the PP. But you may notice a couple of other values have changed. Let me bring in the bad one again there, and we can see the difference right now. So we're going to start off with the maximum power. You may see here that it's gone from 798 when the oil is nice to 772 when the oil is not very good. The maximum torque then changes because the max power changes. All makes sense to me. But what I found very interesting is down below, the G-force. That didn't change down there. That normally does change from memory. Now with the acceleration performance as well, that did not change. And you can see that right there. So very interesting tests in terms of that then. In terms of the maximum power changing, the torque changing. However, the acceleration didn't change. Well, okay. The stats and the data doesn't show that. But is that actually true? Let's do an acceleration test. Right, here we are then at Special Stage Route X, which is my test course, essentially. And you can see BOP is on there, 798 brake horsepower, and it's actually the good car here. It's got good engine oil in this one. Now, we're going to head towards 1,000 meter line. I don't know why I picked 1,000 meters. I always use that line as a bit of a benchmark area because I can go from there. Now, in terms of when we start this, we're not going to be exactly lining up times here. It's going to be a case of side by side. So what I need to do is bring on the other footage, which is going to be the bad oil. So let's do that now. There we go. Good on the left, bad on the right. Now, these have been lined up. So at 1 kilometer an hour, they are exactly the same. And we kick off here. Try to control is on 1 as well as we continue on there. We've got a bit of wheel spin. It's all good as we continue on here. And we're probably noticing there's no real difference in terms of acceleration. There you go. 300 equal there. So definitely here, BOP definitely takes oil into consideration and takes it out of the argument. So if you got bad oil or good oil, it looks like acceleration is exactly the same, which is nice. Thank you, Gran Turismo. That might mean I use liveries a bit more often than in terms of my cars. We're going to continue on now in terms of speed. Let's see how far we get to here then. You see the speeds are identical as we continue now to the 350 mark there. And again, it's very much identical. Don't worry about the times. You know, we start accelerating at different times. They were lined up at 1 kilometers an hour. That's how I'm doing this test. I line up that speed because then the rest of it should be identical. Very similar in terms of distances here, all the same. We continue now to the one where we don't have BOP on. No BOP acceleration. So the same test here. They've been lined up at 1 kilometers an hour and we go from there. So let's kick off here with accelerating. Now, I will tell you, when I did this test, I very much felt very quickly like the right-hand side, the bad one, had a bit more grip on the rear wheels. And arguably, that's because it has a little bit less power. We're going to continue on here now towards 200, and we're going to see that now the good oil is beating the bad oil. So when BOP is not on, you're seeing a significant impact straight away with these cars. Now, these cars are going to be very close anyway, aren't they? Let's be honest with you, because of the power and the weight of these cars. They just bolt away. The lack of horsepower shouldn't make that much of a difference, but we are seeing it right here. We continue to the 300 marker, 4 kilometers an hour difference. It's not massive, but it's still impactful. In a race, that will obviously continue to get larger and larger in terms of gaps. You're at a disadvantage with the bad oil. I'm going to continue on now because I want to show you what happens when you get to the hill, because this gets very interesting indeed. I never know what's going to happen in these tests. I filmed this video in step by step. So I start with the intro, I then do the first test, get an outcome, and then go on to the second test. I've got more of my tests written down in terms of what I'm doing. I haven't done them all yet. So when we get to this hill, okay, you're seeing on the right there, we're staying in 6th gear. It's around 307. I'm in automatic gears here for this test. The first test, I was in manual, but it just shows you there's definitely a difference here. 308, 305 now in terms of the speed, so we're maintaining much more speed now going uphill. This becomes very significant here at Special Stage Route X. It really does, because going uphill, we're hitting that distance marker a second earlier, potentially there. As we go downhill, watch this. Left goes to 7th gear, the right doesn't go to 7th gear. It doesn't go to 7th gear at all, which shows you that just a small increase of horsepower because of a better oil condition is very much beneficial when BOP is not on, and you're seeing that right here. So that is the acceleration test. We can see BOP has no BOP basically makes sure that oil doesn't have any impact, but without BOP on, there's definitely an impact there in terms of acceleration. What about braking? You probably went, Tidge, why would there be an impact on braking? Well, engine braking does exist, and maybe the difference in horsepower has an impact on that. Here we are then with the braking. So this is BOP brake. So I've got bounce performance on. Left is good, right is bad, just as we've just been doing with the previous test. Crash goes on 1, don't worry about that. ABS has been put to default to make sure ABS has no real impact on this, as well as we head towards 350 kilometers an hour on BOP. Now we'll explain why it's a different speed on the non-BOP in a second, but we get to 350 here, and you can see we've just got on the brakes on both screens. That's how I've lined this up. When we get to 350, we're going to hit the brakes and see how long it takes for the car to then get to 0. I'll see which one gets to 0 first. So as we come down the gears there, it's on automatic. You can see we've actually hit 0 at the exact same time. So good news there. Oil being bad doesn't affect braking when BOP is on. However, does it impact braking when BOP isn't on? Well, let's try it again. So obviously the right one sets off first. If you're wondering why they're not lined up, they are. Because on the right, the speed, it takes longer to get to the speed I was doing, which I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was 300 kilometers an hour. Now, in terms of why it's 300 rather than 350, it's because of the aero we're using. We've got bigger downforce on this because that's the setup I used at the time. I didn't want to change anything, and that's what we've got here. So as we go onto the brakes, we've just got on the brakes on both screens right now. Let's see if any do beat the other. No, 0 again. So good news, oil impacts braking in no way whatsoever. So you don't have to worry about that. That test is done. Don't worry about that ever again in Gran Turismo 7 with the oil. Now, I thought I'd test fuel here because, you know, if a car's got more horsepower, potentially it's going to use more fuel, or is engine with bad oil going to use more fuel? Or Gran Turismo going to simulate that? I wasn't too sure. So times 50, straight out of the pits, staying in 3rd gear, maximum revs, all the way until 0 to see if there is any big fuel difference. So you can see that down below there, that we're down to 20% now, and it's roughly around the same. The left one's got a bit more used, but it's not a massive amount here. So I would argue, once again, oil is not impacting fuel in any way, shape, or form, which is good. It really is good. We'll just stop it here then. 0 on the left, 1 on the right. There's no real impact there. That's just a margin of error that I can accept here in the testing. So in conclusion then, from all the testing, we can very much say that BOP is extremely helpful in making sure oil, whether it's good or bad, has no impact on the cars, which is brilliant stuff. Nice to see. Gran Turismo have really implemented that very well. Awesome to see. I will start using more liveried cars in the future, knowing that fact. I didn't know it before. It was nice to do the testing. I definitely know that fact. When BOP isn't on, though, only engine power is impacted, which does make sense. So if you don't do that oil change and you have bad oil, you will have an impact in terms of horsepower and torque. We saw that in the settings. And that, of course, will impact acceleration and top speed. And that is it, which is brilliant. It doesn't impact fuel. It doesn't impact engine braking at all, which is fantastic to see that it's only impacting a small area there. And you then just need to do an oil change if you're in that scenario. Arguably, in a lobby, it would be nice if you can do an oil change in terms of if you have got bad oil to do it in the lobby. But maybe that's a game implementation they can do in the future. Who knows? But, folks, for this video, it is done. Hopefully, it's been of interest to you. I like doing these little tests of finding out a bit more about the game, and we do understand a bit more about the game now in terms of how that oil system works. I'd rather not see it in the game, personally. I don't see the benefit of it, but, hey, it's there in terms of roleplay. If you have enjoyed this video, as always, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel to stay in touch with all the latest content. I will do more of this stuff. We've got break-in. We've got all sorts coming up. I've got a whole list of videos that we'll be doing each and every Friday, as Friday is Feature Video Day. So Feature Friday is what we're calling it from this point on. Do check out 2 videos there. You got the Nurburgring record stream if you want to check that out, or an alternative video that has been out this week. Check out my partners down below, including GT Amiga, where you can get a discount using code Tidgney at checkout. Make sure you do that. And that is going to be it for me. As always, a massive thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in another video or live stream again very soon.